And this right here, this is a video of Tucker talking to Albert and talking to, it's 4 minutes, 30 seconds. I want to play this. Let's play this and come back and we'll get your thoughts.
So last night we talked to a lawyer who represented January 6th defendant Jacob Chansley, the so-called QAnon shaman. And the lawyer told us that the government, the prosecutors in this case, in violation of the Constitution, hid exculpatory evidence from him and the defense in order to send Jacob Chansley to prison for 4 years, where he is tonight. We confirmed today that the Capitol Police turned over all the video, including the video you just saw of Jacob Chansley, your client, to the FBI right after January 6th. So the FBI had this videotape, and they withheld it from his initial lawyer in his defense. How is he still in prison tonight?
Tonight, one of the most recognizable faces in the attack on the U.S. Capitol has hired a high-profile St. Louis attorney. Al Watkins will represent Jacob Chansley. Images of Chansley with his face painted and horned hat are among the most circulated from last week's riot at the Capitol. He was arrested in Arizona. Charges include violent entry on Capitol grounds. Watkins argues otherwise, saying, quote, "My client had heard the oft-repeated words of President Trump. The words and invitation of a president are supposed to mean something." Watkins adds that Chansley and others should be pardoned as a result.
Traversing of a path away from QAnon by Jacob? Absolutely. Has he extricated himself such that his boots don't smell of QAnon? No. No, it's still there, and it's going to take time. But this is a man who was under a great deal of familial pressure not to take a plea because President Trump was going to reassume office. And my goodness, pardon him. And it took a lot. It took a lot of courage for a young man who was raised by his mother to say, no, I'm making this decision because it's the right thing to do. I'm making this decision because I was wrong. I broke the law. And it was a really brave thing for him to do at a time when, even though he wanted to be held accountable, at the same time, the only person his whole life that he had as a constant was his mother. And
well, Jake did not have a lot of post-conviction options. The plea agreement that Albert Watkins talked him into signing waived all his appeal rights. So he had no opportunity to go to the Circuit Court of Appeals to raise any issues connected to his conviction. It was a terrible plea agreement. It was an unconscionable plea agreement. I've done this for 35 years. I recognized immediately what Watkins had done wrong. Watkins had him plead guilty before the government was even willing to say it had produced all the video. The government in August of 2021 was still telling judges, we haven't been able to get all of the evidence to defense lawyers, so please don't set trial dates. Albert Watkins didn't care. He convinced his client to take the offer the government had made and plead guilty. So he's in a little bit of a mousetrap.
So it was a brave move, and it was a move that was not something that he could have navigated in January. And in order for him to navigate it, we had to make sure that he was competent, and we had to make sure that he had a full knowledge of and appreciation for discovery in this case, the evidence, the options, the right to try a case, the right to confront accusers, the right to be presumed innocent. And it was, as a man who has been knocking around federal courts for 36 years, and I'm always an advocate for my client. My duty is to my client.
Well, Jake did not have a lot of post-conviction options. The plea agreement that Albert Watkins talked him into signing waived all his appeal rights. So he had no opportunity to go to the Circuit Court of Appeals to raise any issues connected to his conviction.
All right. And this, by the way, we'll get to kind of the basis behind it, but let's put up that thing again. This is Watkins, Al Watkins. And let me just read what he said. I wanted to separate him out from that herd of thugs. Watkins, the Q shaman attorney, said his client has Asperger's syndrome and indicated that Chansley's mental state and the impact of Trump's propaganda efforts would play a role in the case. A lot of these defendants, I'm going to use the colloquial term, perhaps disrespectfully, but they're all effing short bus people, Watkins told TPM. These are people with brain damage. They're effing retards. They're on the damn spectrum. Okay. So take this down. Todd? He convinced Jacob to take a plea deal, pushed him to it. He used it as a stage to push more propaganda, ignored what he said in that video, ignored it, that having discovery, used the discovery process against him by telling him that everyone around you was burning things down, right? Which is not true. 36 years in the federal system, he literally did everything he could to destroy and serve as a pawn for the federal government while lying to his client and then hemming him up in a 4.5-year sentence, while at the same time, he did all of that, going out there and saying everyone is junk, and you cannot appeal your sentence, even if it comes down the line that all of what I said is a lie. What do you feel about that, Todd?
I think people need to be very wary of who they pick as an attorney. There's a lot of fraud going on out there. And you know, when I was first came onto Wall Street decades ago, this old guy said, when you go into some, client's office, look around the walls, get a feel of who he is, understand what his hot buttons are, look at the pictures. And this is what people really need to, you need to really do a background check on your attorney if you're thinking of hiring somebody, because there's a lot of fraudsters out there who will take your money, who are working for the other team and won't do a thing. We've run into it many, many times. And in fact, they will do the opposite what is best for you. So I would start with just making sure they're a Christian. I mean, that will cut out half the problem right there. And then do a deep dive and make sure you understand who this person is, who his character is. It doesn't matter if he's wealthy or been in federal court. You want somebody who's going to be on your side, that understands you. So that's my advice. There's a lot of the legal profession is just as bad as the medical and other professions right now.
Absolutely.
100%.